Welcome. Welcome to Radio Evolve. Welcome, Rama Mani and Alexander Schieffer. Great to have you here for us for Radio Evolve. Rama Mani, you are an artist, founder of the Theater of Transformation, but also a social activist, originally from India. And Alexander, you teach leadership development and also worked in that in many areas, and also are an artist, a poet, thinking about integral development, integral thinking. And there's much more to say about you, and we will post the link to find out for people about that. And what we are speaking about today is a project that you are doing in many ways also since a long time, your Home for Humanity project, and we will explore that a bit. And especially now with a project that you started, I think 2 years ago, the One Home Journey for Humanity. And maybe to start with that project, the One Home Journey for Humanity, how did this came about, and why is that the core that you seem to work with this idea of one home for humanity?
Dear Mike, what a deep, deep pleasure to be reconnected with you, to be part of this Evolve podcast. Evolve has been really, an evolving part of our lives over many years and such a source of inspiration for so many. And especially at this time, it feels like it's just so important that there is this space for us to continue to have a guide in our own evolutionary journeys. And I wanted to preface that to responding to your beautiful first question, which is really an invitation to plunge into the heart of almost like I would say our raison d'être, our purpose, what moves us, because I think it's something that so many of, people in so many different parts of the world and different sectors have been looking at how ever more rapidly our world is degenerating. Our beautiful, beloved, one home planet, represented by this beautiful piece of art that represents the earth, done by an artist, Michel Granger, which has traveled with us this whole past year and a half and been held by almost 12,000 people of all ages, from babies and children to very, very, very old elderly people. And, this little home here that represents, when human beings started saying, maybe a little shelter made out of nature would be good for us. So as all of us have looked around and said, what is happening to our earth? What is happening to humanity? Who are we? What does it mean to be human? How do we treat each other? How do we treat this one home, the earth? And in the end of the day, how do we treat ourselves? What do we think this is and why we are here? And when we asked that question, actually, it was during our silent retreat in the beginning of 2003. And that was really the guiding question.
23.
2023, sorry. Thank you. I could see Mike was saying 2023. It almost like, nature, Mother Earth answered us and said, this is the time for your Home for Humanity movement, which Alexander will speak more about, the birth of that movement, which was now spread around all continents, of people asking that question and responding to the crises in the world in local, culturally responsive ways. The message that came so clearly is this is the time that humanity needs to rediscover who we truly are, reconnect to each other, and know that the answers are here in with us in each of our countries, communities, and cultures. The ancient cultural and indigenous wisdom that showed us for tens of thousands of years how to live in harmony, in unity with ourselves, with each other, and with the earth. The new innovations of people who are saying, what are holistic solutions are there. So that was when we felt called to take on this seemingly, this epic, this seemingly impossible journey. But we felt 7 years to really see to what extent we could go to every country on earth and honor what is already there in terms of the indigenous and ancient cultural wisdom and knowledge, what is emerging in terms very often people who have faced the worst consequences of our world, of climate crisis, of war, of oppression, um, to highlight that and to support those, to what we love doing, bringing out the highest potential, so transformative education, to bring out the purpose and highest potential of those who want to be the change but don't yet know how, and connect them to others. Alexander.
Yeah, so literally, dear Mike, the One Home journey has been born right here where we are. After the first year of the One Home journey, we are returning home, so to say, for an integration preparation phase, but reconnecting also as we do on a daily basis with this original vision, which one could say literally organically grew out of our work. It evolved out of the last 20, 30 years of our work, but it also came as a response to the question, what's the next level? How in this time of great drama, of great transformation, of great birthing and dying, how can the movement Home for Humanity, and we speak a bit about what that is, how can that serve in a more profound way to what we would call a catalytic moment of humanity reconstituting itself and a possibility for an evolutionary up for the next evolve, so to say. And that is the answer that came was the One Home journey. And the One Home is indeed something that is at the very heart of the work we have been doing. We are bringing people since 20 years home to this place, students from the University of St. Gallen, PhD students from around the world, in order to connect to their own purpose. Rama spoke a little bit to their own, also the planet as a whole, because we are at a time we either come together as humanity serving life as a whole or ... The signs are not too positive if we think that thought through in the other direction. And that's where the One Home journey is situated in, one could say. And the vision is in the next 7 years, till 2030, to reach out to all countries on Earth. We may not be able to travel to each and every, but then we will certainly be able to travel to around 120, but to reach out with a growing community of agents of transformation, of
All
what
our
we call
partners.
Earth citizens, into all countries of the world, to really form a planetary community that supports the awakening, our next phase. And we hear the grandfather's clock ringing in the back, which it always does when something
When something is something's right. He says, you got it. Yes, humanity is going to, come together in this way.
Thank you. And can you say a bit more also in your work in the Home for Humanity? You said you invited for many years students, people to your place to support them in finding their deeper purpose. Can you say a bit more about what this implies for you, or how can we as human beings come to that deeper place or that deeper connection? What kind of maybe also ways to work together, to be together, to practice together have you found that make that easier to emerge?
To respond to your last question, I would definitely say yes. What happened, and it's grown really out of, I would say, Rama, a great experiment, because our passion for transformative education, education that is relevant for the transformation of our time in our communities and on a global level. We designed, and one or two of these courses happened with the university in St. Gallen, one on how do we renew international development, how to develop differently as countries, but development always understood as a process which begins within, and then in our communities, and then in our societies. And one where in both we work closely together on how do we become an agent of transformation. So both of these were accredited courses, including a PhD program that I run internationally on how do we care for our societies. But bringing people home was a physical act, but also a metaphorical, profound one. It was on a physical way coming here, learning in community without any hierarchy, learning together we are living here in the rural countryside in the French Jura. That's where the first home for humanity was grounded, in a very nature-based place, a very
simple, rustic, not, overdeveloped.
Yeah, but a place which allows for connecting to creation, to the land, and by implication to yourself. And that was always the starting point in the way we are working. When we work on development, work on how do we become agents of transformation, it would need to be fueled by the very source that is carrying us forward in a very conscious way. So people make and establish this connection. And we felt the home setting gave us the capacity to create a creative intimacy that allowed for that connection to take place and for that affirmation of the capacity each one of us is holding in ourselves and together. There was another very important part to also work in community, because the great changes that we intend to, that we envision needs our collective effort. And this was the practice ground. And that became such a strong manifestation, Rama, I would say, and Mike, that this grew over time into proportions, and the name Home for Humanity emerged literally and fell in the middle of that work. And later then this image and reality of a home for humanity traveled into the world. Now there are about 80 on all continents that work in similar ways in very different sectors of societies, but work in a similar inside out, caring for self, for local community and earth. Trajectory.
Yeah. Maybe, Mike, if I could, because you asked very specifically to know, what was it? Like, what was the process or the teaching methodologies? I would love to just share a little bit more about that. And then maybe in a separate question, because Alexander, you already talked about these homes for humanity around the world. We can, come to that because they're two separate parts. I mean, Alexander, it would be best if you explain, because you mentioned, Mike, the integral integral theory and practice, the integral worlds and integral development approach, which Alexander has developed with his practice and passion for education as a vehicle for transformation over many, many years. And on my side, working in, and it would be great if you, because that is so unique and so relevant for this conversation and for the interests of many people here. And on my side, my work my passion originally was about injustice in society. So very similar to Alexander, any kind of division, when some people grab power thinking they're superior. And that led me to my passion for how do you build peace and restore justice and harmony after violent conflict, after war, after genocide, dictatorships. And that became really my field of study. And related to that, what kinds of governance and so on. So it wasn't directly education until we met, and I saw, and I was stunned by the complete transformative approach to education, education that really is at the service of profound inner, local, and planetary transformation. And what was then beautiful is, I think in the beginning, I was still, going around the world with my work on conflict, and I was seeing how Alexander was able to bridge the two. He would go in deep into the ground, working with his students and partners around the world in countries similar to the ones I was working in deep turmoil and transformation in the Middle East, in Africa, in Southern and West Africa. But he had the ability to bring these students here, the advanced PhDs who were already heads of their organizations or societies. So, really on in their lives, but thinking how to make a transformative impact. And the impact of seeing them in our home and, cooking dinner for them and seeing this journey they would go on in just, a few days. And then he started first bringing the undergraduate students home who were more European, with just a few, Asians or others who would come as foreign students. And then came this idea of what if we joined our methodologies? So the last course he mentioned was really exciting and very profound because it was me bringing my experience in conflict and that transformation, where I myself had gone from thinking conflict is something out there, you know, into recognizing that actually conflict begins in here with us not knowing who we are. So, which had led me to theater of transformation as this transformative methodology through the stories of people who have, through crisis, through losing everything outside, gone inside, transformed themselves, and in that process transformed their community, their society, and in some way, because we all affect each other, the world. So that was really the beauty of bringing the two together and seeing how in a few days, these young students who thought they just wanted to go out there and, be successful and bring about change outside. And in just a few days of them being in nature and really asking themselves and each other, who are you? What are your deepest values? Where did you get them from? Who touched you the most in your life? What breaks your heart? And then, using theater of transformation and becoming each other, stepping into each other's skin. And actually, I become a German man who is profoundly influenced by the war. And he becomes an Indian woman who, in his body, feels, the oppression of being a woman and the contradictions of Indian society and what that does. And yeah, and then all of our students by the end would have got this deep integral learning, but they would also enact the future they desire. They would become a historical figure that they admire and the future person they want to be, and how that brought about change in the world we want to create. So, this was a very beautiful process, which, as Alexander said, revealed to us that just by creating a feeling of home, of belonging, of knowing that every single person in the group has something invaluable, unique to share. And we noticed that even the shyest person was out there, uh, presenting the future. The one who said, I don't know if I'm going to do that, they were out there. We saw, and at the end of those few days, the first thing everyone would say is, wow, we experienced community. Some of us have been in the same class in university 3, 4 times, and we don't know who the other person is. But in these few days, we experience community. We realize there's no teacher and learner. We are all learning together, and the sense of being home. And that became really the key metaphor, as you said, that when we can feel at home in here, then anything can happen, anything becomes possible, because we feel at home inside at last. And then we can realize any place where we work, where we live, can be a home for everyone, can be a place of belonging where everyone can fulfill their deepest purpose, and it can be in service to our community and the earth because we belong to both and we have an equal duty to both. So that's really become the core of this importance of home.
Yeah, I would almost call it, Mike, like the transformation was almost an alchemical process that took place as the different dimensions of each and everyone could show up.
Mm.
And this is at the very heart of the integral
Everything,
work.
yeah.
It's a whole person, a whole life perspective. And it is actually, maybe I go one step out and then I come
Please.
back in, because the integral work has been born out of working profoundly across the planet with organizations that brought locally grounded, culturally contextualized, holistic perspectives into embodiment, into life, new ways of sustainability, which were not driven by a Western agenda, but by one which is locally and culturally authentic. So we're also where the whole of a culture of a society was present in these organizations, as well as care for the whole of the person. And that we saw were the pathways for building future in a way which is not a monoculture, but which in a way builds on the best of all our cultures. That is very much also in the coding of the home for humanity. It's not a singular perspective, but it's really each one of us has a home which has its own grounding and place and culture, and it's absolutely vital if we want to tap into the authentic expression of each and every one. But the integral also means you come in with, body, mind, spirit, and hand. It's the whole of you that is coming. You're the artist in you, and that's why you see, it also moves through us. We give energy and time to all of these dimensions, the natural part that wants to be and connect to nature, and that is nature, the cultural expression in us, the artist, the one who goes on the quest, in the inner uncharted places, but also the one who thinks and designs in a new way the future, and the one who embodies, who brings also what has come up as innovation from within into outer action. Bring these different dimensions together. This was and is always at the heart of the work we are doing. And that makes integral a very transformative journey. And that was a journey that we took each and every one on, be it, for the undergraduates here in a couple of days, or PhDs. We call it, by the way, processes for holistic development, PhDs, PhDs who take a 4 or 5 year journey. So in a nutshell, our passion isn't really education, but education is the vehicle of catalytic transformation that is given to us, and that we can all together redesign in order to make the great changes happen. That's what we ultimately work for, and what is driving us. Oh yes, if I show, Rama brought a little, this is a kind of artistic expression of the integral, because it brings together the center. And on a personal level, your heart, your core, your inner calling, it brings body, your nature connection.
So you could say the green in a way.
It brings in the east, so to say, in the metaphoric east, your own cultural, artistic dimension up. The metaphoric north is your mind, your capacity to create theories, new ideas, new designs, and ultimately the metaphoric West, now integrated, not footloose, not a Wild West that we experience today very often, which acts but connected to all other dimension. And that is, as it shows, a journey that is circular and transformative and ongoing. And it happens on an individual, but equally on a collective level.
Yeah, beautiful. And it seems that with this project about the one home journey you are undertaking now, it's also what you were saying about that every individual has something very deeply important to bring to the whole. And it seems what you are trying to bring out, that also every culture on the planet has something deeply valuable to bring into that process of a kind of integral human development, you could say. And can you speak a bit more how you then work with this background that you just shared, in this transformative education or this integral work. How do you move to these other cultures? What kind of people you try to connect with, and how to facilitate that kind of process there, or take in the inspirations from these places?
But already, Mike, just thank you that it's beautiful that you could really feel and resonate with these two passions, every individual and every culture, because that's what really moves us. That, in the world we see today, so many people just feel there's nothing I can do, but so many entire cultures feel we are nowhere. People don't even know we exist. They've never heard about us, that the news only picks up the two or three predominant and powerful countries or cultures or individuals. So that's really was our driving motivation. What would a world be like where every culture has its beauty, wisdom, knowledge, and its innovations to bring? And as you said, every individual can shine and have their contributions. So taking one step back, and the bridge, which answers your question about the one home journey, was, what started here in a way, bringing students here, but also bringing our partners who sometimes, if they were passing through Europe, they would say, oh, this is a place I can come and discuss with Alexander and Rama what's happening, the crises in our countries and what we are thinking, what's the best way to respond. Or there would be events here that they would come to. And the local community, so we also became this place where we would have beautiful events where the local community, which is very much just peasants, who some of you may not have left the place, except maybe to do their military service once in the capital, or, and people who've come, as is happening, leaving cities to come and live in villages, or coming back to where their grandparents lived, because they want their children to grow up differently. But it's a very rural community, would meet international change makers, but very grassroots change makers, And so that was also what was happening here. And little by little, our partners said, we are also a home for humanity. We are also, whether we are a small organization or a very big organization like SECEM, which is well known in Austria and Germany, which started off with one family building one of the first organic farms in Egypt, and is now, called the Champion of the Earth, received the Champion of the Earth award, and is really such a role model of integral enterprises, with whom Alexander worked for more than 20, 30 years now, 25 years probably, supporting them in this evolutionary process. Or Sarvodaya in Sri Lanka, very close partner, which is based on Buddhist, compassion, and how every single Sarvodaya means every person is a light. So if every person's light can shine, the whole society can shine, which also has this integral, holistic approach of nature, culture, spirituality, society, and economics being a very important part. But sometimes very small organizations too that are on that path. They said, we too are homes for humanity because we have the same approach. And that's how initially the movement grew and spread, even during COVID, when we could no longer visit each other, but we could shine light on that. So when the vision came, it came to us, but immediately the first thing we did is we shared it by then with the 2530, the core Homes for Humanity, which are independent, long-standing organizations. So it's the opposite of a Starbucks, where you go out there and say, here, I put my flag of the integral and create, yet another, what do you call it, photocopy of what we are doing in France or what we are doing in Germany. It's the opposite of saying, wow, you have found this beautiful way to transform the issues of relevance in your society, your culture, your environment in a way that's rooted in your local culture, but still it's innovative and it's inclusive and holistic. That's a role model for the future. That's an inspiration. And it's a practice, it's not a model, it's something you live, you are, because it comes out of your deepest motivation. So we shared immediately this vision with our Homes for Humanity, and they all said, absolutely, this is what we need to do. So the first year of the journey, Alexander, perhaps you take over there and say how it was really us together. We chose many countries where we have already worked before, and they were our hosts because that's always the approach is you in your country know best. What is the cultural wisdom and knowledge, the indigenous knowledge you want to share with the world, which we need for the future? What are the innovations, the young people who are overcoming challenges, the women overcoming oppression, and your own work? What are other organizations like you that we can show to say there is no place on earth, however big the crisis, where human beings do not evolve into their higher purpose despite all obstacles, where they don't innovate the best way, where they don't turn back to themselves, not look outside for solutions that won't work for them, but look inside their own selves, their own cultures, for the best ways to live in harmony with all life. To live the interconnected wholeness of life, we could
Yeah.
say.
So yes, Mike, your question also, how is it unfolding and what is happening actually on the ground? So we are traveling
Maybe you share
country
the
to
process
country,
here.
and Rama intimated it, but I want to nail it, so to say, we're traveling home to home,
Yes.
traveling hotel to hotel, we're traveling home to home, home for humanity to home for humanity. So in every country, there is also this deep immersion in new, innovative, or new, ancient, innovative practices to build future in a regenerative way. And we highlight that, we champion that, we spotlight that. And we build also, back to education, we build curriculum. We are creating learning, educational videos to share what is happening actually on the ground, to offer the harvest of the journey also to a growing communities of co-learners. But we also engage very directly, with aspiring agents of transformation, focus in particular on people from marginalization, women who are coming out of oppression, youth which is marginalized, be it in refugee camps or in slums, so we tap also into these spaces of societies that seemingly have not much to offer, and that's where we often find these kind of impulses that don't only care for the people and for the immediate moment, but also have a bigger perspective, which is absolutely fascinating. So we are bringing that also to the fore, but also supporting with the learnings we are receiving from around the world. We are creating co-learning spaces in order to help to strengthen these journeys on the ground. And we are building community, and we hold these connections as we move forward. But also because you touched again on the issue of culture and the cultural gift that every culture has to have, which is really not a romantic perspective, but it's an absolute necessity as we see it, that these different cultural gifts come into the shared planetary table in order to create something new, which is like nature. It works on diversity. It doesn't work on a monoculture. So we need to bring that together. So in every culture, every country, we also meet with indigenous elders, indigenous communities, with people, perennial wisdom holders in society, sometimes artists who are holding these deeper cultural visions often, and also bring this particular knowledge with us. And then, and that's maybe something you will find interesting, we are shaping and bring all of this together into what we are calling a one home UNIF Earth city. UNIF Earth. So the planet Earth is a teacher, and it's not a university as we know it, but it's an open and it's a free platform that we are building up virtually and physically, because all the homes are physical expressions, are the campus, but also a virtual campus that we are building up. So the learning we are harvesting and we are co-creating is shared and available in future also on a fingertip, on your phone, so you can engage. Everyone can join and travel and with us and participate in this journey. That's a bit the vision idea. We are a university on the go, a mobile transformative vehicle.
Maybe, Mike, that sounds, because I will say this, that the first year, kind of typical of us, we were quite overambitious because we said, what if we gave ourselves 7 days in every country? A little bit like, the mythic image that many of the, you say the modern, religious myths of, God creating the world in 7 days. But we said, if it becomes like a way of thinking, how can we, starting with the wisdom of nature, so going to a place just to be in silence with a place that has been a unifying place, a sacred place, Mount Fuji, or less known, the Tongariro in New Zealand, Aotearoa, which is sacred for the Maoris, a river which may have been sacred, the source of the Nile. So just being there, and then going to the indigenous community, one indigenous community of the country, which is still living its traditions, which has managed to renew its ancient wisdom of living in harmony with all of life. And despite all of, globalization and economic, liberalization and colonization and all of that. Then going to the children. And with the children, we go usually to a school or an orphanage or a children's organization which has a kind of, which is really interested in what's in there, no, not interested in just crushing that, and interacting with them and asking them to draw and to talk about, express their dream of how can we live together as one home, one life. What is the future you see for all of us together? And they would paint that and draw that. And often, we'll come to that later, we would plant what we're calling a unity garden together. That was children. Then we would have workshops with youth. And as Alexander said, youth usually through our partners who were from war-affected minorities, oppressed, excluded, but full of this desire to bring about change. Then the women's workshop, we call the youth for the future. And then women, we said women for the earth, so women reconnecting to the strength that comes from knowing, we can shape the future on earth. And then these organizations we mentioned, it could be a little orphanage created by a woman who lost everything and lost her only child and said, I'm going to be a mother to everyone who's abandoned. And I'll come just to give a concrete example, for example, in the refugee settlement in Uganda and what we experienced there. So highlighting a few such initiatives that give us hope that in the middle of nothing, you can start something which is holistic, inclusive, and transformative, which includes all those elements, of who we are. And then we would bring it all together, bring the community together to, see what we have learned from this culture and this community, to share it through an online call with the international community so that that bridge could be built and people could really feel, wow, we have something to share. And then we would culminate with planting what we call a unity garden. And the idea of the Unity Garden is that in it, we can learn about, well, what are our medicinal, herbal, important plants, trees? It can be a place, a sanctuary of rest. It can be a place of learning where children come and learn about that, a place where you get nutrition. But also, the thing is that every tree or plant represents the whole of life, all cultures. So ideally, there are 200 plants or trees, and each one is a local tree, but that represents Germany. And I learned, Germany, it's really about, truth or dedication. And I learn about, I don't know, India, where it's the search for inner realization. And, so you learn that in your own little garden, you have Asia and, Europe and the Americas. And so you have this feeling of the wholeness of life, and everyone plants their wish and their commitment for the future. So it becomes a place where every time you water the plants or touch the earth, you are cultivating your own wish and commitment for the future, your own dream. So that's what we did in the first year. In every country, it was our local host or hosts, in some countries, many, who in some cases knew us for many years, like Sekem or Sarvodaya. But in some cases, like the refugee camp I mentioned, it was young refugee youth who just got to know us over the internet during COVID and said, we are part of the team. And they organized everything from helping us to cross the border and do the formalities to come into Uganda, which is their
Camp.
into a country which is not their own, where they are refugees from the Congo. And these young 21, 24, and 26-year-old three youth who had organized everything and took us to see all the initiatives. And we did the women's workshop and the youth workshop, and the children painted their dreams in these little shacks that they have built, for kids who are coming traumatized. And the traumatized young people had created an orphanage for other traumatized youth to overcome their trauma. And, even it's very beautiful, the most powerful, created by two young 24-year-old orphaned refugees who had been through the most horrific trauma in the Congo, which they shared in depth with us. Together with other youth, saving little bits of money, had created this beautiful home away from home, and they called it New Talent for the Best Future, to say you've lost everything, but in you is the talent that can create the future. So that's what it was, a little bit to give you a flavor of this first year, of everyone recognizing how important they are, but in this way that isn't inflated, but just, yeah, and how important is what they've done, how important is their wisdom and knowledge, and how we are all connected to each other together. Next year, we have a slightly different plan, which really builds on what we learned this year and how we can now move every year forward, evolve the way we are doing the journey. So it could be of most benefit and most inclusion, and it can spread so others can also take this forward in their own way. So that's sense.
Beautiful. And something that comes up for me when you describe it is also because you spoke about the agents of transformation, and also transformation is a big word, and it's also there are all kinds of ideas how transformation can happen, and often it is also coming from a certain idea how we can transform, or how we can maybe imply transformation, and even when you say towards a more livable future or ecological social transformation. But what I'm getting from what you are saying is also a bit a different approach to transformation, that because you are saying, or that's what I'm getting, it's also coming from more from the ground up, from what is already there and what is already lived in different cultures. So to have a more awareness of what people are actually already responding to, or creatively doing in their small community, it might be, or a big project like Zekem, and really learn from them, because it's there where really transformation already is happening to a certain issue or situation. So it's not an idea or a kind of concept only, but it is lived practice, and then gathering that practice, and also in that kind of university that I can see that this also is a very potent approach for transformation, to really bring in all the wisdom and practice experience that is held in so many places, to make that available also as a kind of a, almost, how you say, like a creative stream, like a creative energy of possibility. And can you say a bit more how you see that transformation, or how your approach is, or if that has what I picked up has a resonance to that?
You expressed it so beautifully, Mike. You really got to the very deepest heart of what matters to us, and you expressed it beautifully.
Yeah, I felt equally. Um, you so beautifully shared it. What also comes with this, Mike, as we are honoring and aiming to see these different approaches in each and every culture in their own uniqueness, we are creating together something what we call a living curriculum, a living field of new practices. And at the same time, while we are learning from each other, encouraging these seeds that each one of us is holding to also authentically express yourself, not through
copy.
imitation, but through origination,
Yes.
to be your own original. And in these original impulses, you are rooted, you are grounded, you can grow, and you can cross-pollinate, you can give, and this is exactly the way how we are working, and probably also the vision of the future we are working for, where this diversity is fully actualized, and where education also is not looking to homogenize people and bring us all into one culture, because it kills our creativity and our capacity to really meaningfully contribute in our creativity, but where we turn that around and build future in a much more colorful, and actually it's very colorful here, you can see it, in a much more colorful way, together, and much truer to life. Let's put it this way.
Yeah. So exactly that point, Mike, that you picked up, that, it wouldn't be, oh, I see Sekhem and then I have to go, I'm in, I don't know, the opposite environment to Sekhem, and I try to repeat a Sekhem, but I say, wow. So because what we try to bring out is also the personal story of the founder of founders. How did that happen? What were the challenge? What was the déclic, the aha moment? What was the challenge that led to that? Often it comes out of a crisis, or a life-changing moment. What were the challenges? And in which ways did the person turn inside? What were the inner resources? What were the local resources in terms of the environment or the cultural knowledge that created that? So then you realize it makes no sense what we learn in the books, that I have to repeat the same thing. For example, I mean, our disaster with economics, that's more Alexander's field, but how can we possibly think that some kind of approach to economics developed in a very specific context with a very specific cultural way of life could make sense in a completely different, more community oriented, more collective way, So even each community developing its own economic model. So many of Alexander's former PhD students, through the process of the holistic development, came up with their own economic models, like the economy of love, which now Sekhem is taking all around the world, has brought into COP, has brought into the UN. It's not saying, oh, love, you have to only say that to your family. No, love is for the whole world, is saying Sekhem, and using its recognition to bring that out, So we have many economic models, cultural models. And so that's the whole thing, is watch, be inspired, but then do it your own way. Don't cut and paste into your culture, but something may give you that idea of looking where you wouldn't have thought of looking, including into yourself, Yeah, that's probably,
And in
for
that
us,
sense, maybe
transformation.
because I know you pick it up, Rama, but Mike brought it also in transformation. In that sense, other than change, is not just making,
Exactly.
shifting things, but staying true to a core. That is what transformation is. You stay true to a core, but that fuels then your own original story or that of a culture.
Yeah. And I would probably say, like, for me, my experience of transformation, like what I discovered through the theater of transformation in my work, is it's like something that's already there inside you,
the core.
but it needs, the core is there, but it needs something to happen, including, to reveal that core. And then the core starts growing and can, bloom. So its transformation is something like the acorn becoming the oak tree. Right now, our oak tree, actually our favorite oak tree under which we were married, it has given so many acorns, but out of those acorns, only some will become 500-year-old trees. which, because they found the fertile inner and surrounding circumstances to become fully what they are meant to be. And each tree will be different, though it's an oak tree,
Mhm. Beautiful. And you mentioned also that you will you do a second year? I mean, this whole
Oh,
project is envisioned for 7 years, right? And you
Right.
will do, I guess, then at some point will embark on the second year. And
No,
how, you
yes.
are saying that what you experience in this first year of doing this is shaping anew how you will move on with that journey. Can you say a bit more how this shift is showing
yeah.
itself?
Well, first of all, to your beginning, dear Mike, yes, there is not only a second year, there will be 7 years. And we call it 7 years for 7 generations.
Hmm.
And it may well go even beyond these 7 years, or what we are doing and aiming has a long-term, a sustainable impact. And one thing which maybe the most important thing that helped us to evolve the second year and beyond of that journey is when we experienced in each and every community in year one, when we at the end of interventions are coming together or
With
go as,
107-year-old
yeah,
children or with elders,
all
with
ages,
yeah.
all social class, it doesn't matter. But when at the end we usually took a shared picture holding the earth together or reaching out to it. There are many of these pictures from every country. The, for us, it was such a profound epiphany, dear Mike, to experience how everyone in this moment reached out with great joy and longing and a sense of belonging and a sense of care. I want to contribute. This is sacred. This is
Mm.
precious. And
And
I'm in
it's
that
part.
in that moment, however big the group was, there was a sense of we are in that together. And doesn't matter what my qualification or background or color is, we are in that together. There was a profound sense of unity. And what we felt at the same time, as you said, many, if not almost all of our these new impulses that we saw have also renewed our relationship to the ground, to the earth. So
Whether
what?
they are in cities, whether they are in
Yeah,
the countryside, whether they are in the middle of the slums, whether they are in the refugee camps, but somehow all of them recognize,
yeah,
yeah,
recognize this relationship locally on the grounds, globally to that living planet. And out of that grew a focus, a sharpened focus on what we now call Earth citizenship, not global citizenship, but Earth, local, planetary, alive, Earth citizen, and I am Earth as well. So this Earth citizenship as an energy that we witnessed around the planet that is rising, that is looking for connection or looking for coming together to create a future that is livable, not just livable, where all of life can thrive. And this is the focus, also the sharpened focus. So when we go now to the next countries, it will be to take that knowledge and wisdom that we harvest with us to also offer it very purposefully in, we call it Earth Citizens Quests, and also in transformances, and deepen also our understanding how Homes for Humanity really are embodied versions of Earth citizenships, to really invite an ever larger community to participate in this journey, which, Mike, we often, well, jokingly, seriously say is not our journey. It's not like Rama's and my journey.
never
It's
was.
it's
Yeah.
kind of we are on that journey at humanity towards that new shore, and the One Home journey is an expression of that. But the focus on Earth citizenship was one that
Yes.
really carved itself out of the experience of year one.
Yeah. So, yeah, just building on that, it's funny because we've been using the word Earth citizens because we said, how else do we refer to everyone on Earth? So, but we hadn't, it was the first year that taught us, so this first year was a lot of just
Yeah, listen.
learning, listening, feeling, seeing with new eyes. Um, yeah, what is humanity? What is the earth? And what we discovered, the definition almost that people around the earth and the earth gave us is earth citizenship is simply caring for and taking care of the earth as recognizing this is all we have. This is it,
Mm.
our one place of belonging, taking care of our local community, of each other, and each other locally here in our community, but each other also means all cultures around the world. Somehow we are all connected. This deep care we saw in every place for people far away, and beginning to realize that we need to take care of ourselves, meaning, know who are we? How do I also the connection to the earth? What am I eating? I am what I eat, and there is a physical connection to the earth, but I am also what I do, what I think. So I need to know myself and live a life of meaning. And this from people who have, I mean, the depth of wisdom and knowledge that you would think you would need to spend 10 years in a spiritual retreat, that young people who have been through utter trauma in the slums of Mathare in Nairobi, in the women who've been beaten black and blue all their lives, facing conjugal violence, and in the slums of Mumbai in India, the youth in the refugee camps, in all of them, this depth of self-reflection, and desire to contribute, this desire to contribute. So that's going to be the guiding thing. And as usual, we will do that, tell the story. So what we've been doing is, maybe I go and get a basket while you share a quick poem, because I think we are probably coming to the hour, and I would love to share the basket of cloths. Yeah,
Very much.
I'm coming in 1 second, Mike, and also share. You get to know the whole family of symbolic objects that have traveled and will travel with us.
Right. Mm.
Mike, as Rama mentions the word family on a deep level, on a deep relational level, that is also what this journey is about.
Mhm.
Restoring family. And not again in a romantic sense, but restoring our sense of belonging, of being part of a human family, of an earth family, of being part of the family of life, and to live accordingly and to live in this relational structure. And that's exactly how life works, and how life, so we, in a way, reconnect to primordial principles of what gives rise to life, what makes life thrive, and that's the teacher, that's Earth City, the university
Mhm.
that we are working towards.
Yeah, that's beautiful, because I also, with this Earth citizenship, it also it also gives a different way how to be on this planet together in a certain way, that it is not only a kind of globalized culture where it's often that certain structures or methodologies or ideas are getting kind of pushed into all cultures or into different cultures, but more also how we can grow organically, like you're saying, like more naturally what is growing from each place, from each region, from each culture, but also from this kind of conflicted situations you were just, or Rama was just mentioning, or also the pain, the suffering that people endured, and what came as a response from that, as a sign of resilience and healing, how that how that can be lived locally at these places and can be developed there, but then connected, globally, like not isolated or kind of in opposition to, this is my culture and the others are whatever, but to see, yeah, this is what is growing here from the soil, so to say, but also from the cultural and the spiritual soil. But it can be connected in a bigger whole of humanity or of Earth, and then it can create a space of cooperation and co-creation and co-inspiration, and that is a different model of a Earth citizenship than one model or one idea what a global you know structure could be. And yeah, I feel that is really pointing to something very, very vivid.
Yes, Mike, I think this is powerfully expressed. And it's also something, in a time where we notice defining ourselves through a nationality is restrictive, and where it's even threatened to be taken away, that you are denaturalized if you don't seemingly fit in. Earth citizenship is also an invitation. It's a birthright we all have. No one can take that away, nor can anyone bestow it on you. It's yours as if you come. But it is yours to also, for the lack of a better word, to claim, to step into, and to show up as an Earth citizen to take care of life on all the levels that we talked about. So I think this is a real possibility of living locally grounded but globally connected as an Earth family. And building a future together where everyone, through that birthright of Earth citizenship, is empowered to participate.
Yes.
And creating and building a new fabric together, Rama.
Yeah, that's really, yes. That's also part of what happened in Linz. So it brings us back to that. I'll share actually in a way the two things which are so related to what you just said now, Mike, which is, this was one of the things you can see now, it's quite tattered, which traveled with us to every country. And it was like a sign of, again, the new economy. Since the beginning of Home for Humanity, we said the world has become so transactional, and people who don't have a lot of financial resources think they have nothing to bring to the table. So how about our movement is a non-transactional gift economy? So we do everything as a gift, and people, if they feel like, we never ask, but if people feel, they make a gift, right? And so we
We
travel.
invite. We don't ask, but we invite.
Yeah, we welcome it if it happens. Yes. So, and usually it turns out that and the beauty is with a gift, it's always an exchange of love. No, it's never bilateral, like I give you something, you give me something back. It's when it's the right time, the gift comes. And also that goes with a home. You don't go to a home with money, you go with a little gift which you think that person will appreciate. And so there's this feeling, it's something that you've put effort into it, it's not just something like a donation you just chuck out and you don't think about it. So what we would do is with this gift bag, which seemed like a very good representation of our interconnected humanity, but also with nature and all of the other forms of life, is in every community we would either buy or receive if they were making something which would support their local economy, and put it in the bag, and then that would travel with us. And then at the right time, we would know, this one, that was made by the young pregnant mothers in the slums of Matare. And that would be really lovely for you here in Asia, where So these sometimes something would travel a long time, and sometimes there would be also like a seed or a shell or a stone, if it wasn't confiscated by the border control, immigration, and so this has become that symbol of that gift economy that's traveling with us. And I had to say that first, and that was exactly it, right? That was the hospitality we received, staying in people's homes, and yeah, their wisdom, the gift of their wisdom, the gift of their time, preparing things for us, the gift of, cooking, the mothers cooking together, the local food. We are vegetarians. And because I'd been sick before traveling, I need to eat local, organic, food. And we managed to do that the whole year, you know how difficult it is in some places, but yeah. And so I mentioned that before because this was a gift, this basket, which I received in the Muliloni community, an indigenous community in Savo called Muliloni, in Kenya, in the forest. And we went to 3 different indigenous communities, which after all these years and centuries of colonization, they are reclaiming their culture. They're learning again how to live in harmony with the animals in this wildlife reserve, and how their agriculture and the animals can live together. and they're planting, reforesting, restoring their sacred groves. So it's this inner process of the spiritual renewal, the cultural renewal, new ways of, economic making honey again or growing the plants again and inviting people to come and discover that, so it's also an economic model. So this was filled with mangoes, of course. It was a real gift from culture and nature and put on my head. So I was taken into a hut, dressed up, of course, in their clothes. And then I should have brought the clothes they dressed me up in. And then they put this on my head. And that was the way so that, you don't go empty-handed. And now it's filled with a gift we received in every country, which is representing in a way this connection of nature and culture. So a gift of cloth, which
In a second.
okay, here's something as well from every country. And so we travel with this basket. And so where we go, we say, the new flag is not anymore of one country and, but it's actually this symbol of what human beings with their cultural wisdom did with the materials that came from the earth. And
Yeah.
each one is full of stories. So I share a story, or we share together to give a sense of what did we learn in every country? What were some of the stories of people who were transformed? And what is, if we reduce it to even just one word, one gift from every culture of all their wisdom, what is that? And so as we go around, we call it a transformance. We share that and people touch the cloth. So they're connecting with the people that we met and connecting with that culture, connecting with that earth. And then we kind of hang them all up together after people have touched them. So it becomes a way that everyone becomes a part of the journey. So we are hoping that that can continue. And I mean, if there were time, I would share, for example, the story of Roger and Muhindo, the two co-founders of the New Talent for the Best Future. But I'm sure that Alexander has a poem very relevant, maybe the poem that he wrote this morning, or a poem that's very relevant to our conversation. So let's see what yes, it's the poem of today, I think.
Great.
Well, I would like to share it, Mike, a poem that came today, and I hope I can read it because it's still in my own scribbles. But I felt it came for a reason because we spoke so deeply about home, and you took us just in this home in the Muliluni community. And it's actually, surprise, it's called home. Home. One of these rare words that still holds healing power. Look how it cures you as you drink home in. What would happen if we drank the whole of this medicine in one go? Perhaps it would turn us into living pharmacies specializing on homecoming. Can you imagine any more relevant new shop in town? So, welcome home
Thank you very much.
as a medicine.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much also for that conversation. Thank you. It really became alive what that home can be and how we can make home and come home. Thank you for that.
Thank you, Mike.
We have really enjoyed so deeply the depth of this conversation and the depth of your deep listening, your deep understanding and ability to see the deepest core of what we're doing.
And the beautiful quality of evolve that is moving through the conversation. So gratitude from our side for that.
Very happy that this can be part of the evolved story because we really feel that's what we are in together, this journey of evolving to who we truly are and what we can become if we are ourselves.
I feel there's a lot of resonance with our,
Yeah.
with our work and your work. So thank you very much for that. And thank you everyone for listening, for watching. Thank
And
you.
we welcome
Goodbye.
everyone to join the journey because, as we said, it's really this collective humanity is on a journey, and that's what we want to show. Everyone's story is part of this new story, everyone's inspiration, wish, dream, and seed for the future.
Welcome on the journey and welcome home.
Thank you. Thank you for that invitation. Bye-bye.
Bye.
So after our conversation, Alexander and Rami shared with me something that I wanted to also bring in here, which is that they have been awarded the Guzi Peace Prize, and I asked them about that prize and how it came about that they were awarded this prize, and I want to share that answer here with you also now, and after that also a little video with images from different places that they have been visiting on their journey. Enjoy that. Thank you.
So maybe I put it this other way, which is, we started the journey in Sekhem in Egypt, and then went from there to
On Mother Earth
Bhutan
Day.
on Mother Earth Day, and then went from there to Bhutan. And in Bhutan, of the very beautiful, our beautiful encounter with this culture, which has put happiness at the center of the economy, the education, of life, and happiness in the deep sense, so not the superficial happiness of having things, but of being happy with life. We met the former Minister of Education, who has really brought this happiness and the green schools, a new concept of schools out. And he thereafter faithfully followed the journey virtually. And after every message he would receive, every video from each country, he would have a deep reflection and really sharing why this was important. And at the end of that year, he wrote to us and said, I would really like to nominate you for this prize called the Guzi Peace Prize in the Philippines, but they normally only accept a single person. And is that okay if I nominate one of you, maybe Professor Schieffer? And we reflected and we said, that's just not the spirit of our lives and what we do. So,
And what the journey stands for.
is about. And if it were possible that we were nominated together, but as the co-founders of the One Home Journey and Home for Humanity, so it's really about how all of us together can create peace and well-being. That's fine, but otherwise we appreciate it, but it's okay. Thank you. And he said, okay, I totally respect that. It's fine.
Yeah, and weeks later, for us that was closed.
Closed chapter.
And weeks later, he said, I've spoken to the board, and they said, we are going to make an exception. We accept the nomination. And then, okay, we left it. And then it was another month or two later that we heard from Manila, and they said, we would like to nominate you, not just to nominate you, but we want to give you the Guzi Peace Prize in our category, in particular focusing in a category on transformative leadership and planetary peace.
Yeah. I think they called it even intercultural and planetary peace. And it was very much recognizing the first year of the journey, recognizing the Home for Humanity movement and all that's happened in the many years leading up to that. So for us, it was really saying the paradigm is shifting. People sometimes need maybe a bit of to think in the new way, but it's really our message is that for intercultural and planetary peace and well-being, it's all of us together and it's everyone doing their bit, but us coming together in mutual appreciation, support, that we can create this. And we are going in that spirit. It's a non-monetary prize, but we're going in that spirit. And after the prize award, which we will accept in the name of all of humanity, all Earth citizens and all who've been involved will be involved. We will be working locally with some communities that are role models and inspirations based in different parts of Philippine culture. So this is just a beautiful sign that after just a year, already that seems like talking about a gift, no? Like a life to say, yes, this is a way that we can all be together and live in harmony on Earth.
Yeah.
One family of life. That's really our, that's the recognition that we are one interconnected family of life.
And perhaps as a closing sentence on this, Mike and Rama, to also support the often crippled energy in many people that each one can make a difference. And this is really the time to activate this energy in connection and connectivity, but to bring that out. And this is, I think, at the very heart of the One Home journey, that every person, every culture has this contribution to make. And we are aware of this, but it's also, we are living in a time where there is such a weight, so much toxic waste on us that sometimes, and many people we know are exhausted in this climate, and we lose the sense of that each one of us can make a difference. And we believe the One Home journey this first year has profoundly shown that in the most unbelievable circumstances, what is possible.
Yeah,
How
thank
we
you.
can evolve together.
Yeah, I think that inspiration comes really through
Yeah.
all of our conversation, but also how you're speaking about, this price and how that is really a different way of appreciating a whole collective of people who contributed to your journey there.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Great, thank you.